Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Now if you're in the market for an outdoors rugged folding knife, then I think the Benchmade Taggedout might just be the knife for you. And this is what we're going to have a look at today, so let's just get straight into it. So as we usually do, we'll go through some measurements, some of the features and so on and so forth. Now, I should probably mention at this point, there are two versions of this one. So the model number for the one that I have here, this is the 15536. The steel on this one is the CPM S45VN, and it's got the it's got the G10 scales. You will see that there is a second version of this. Rather than having the S45VN steel, it has the CPM 154 steel and also has orange scales. I think the liner is the same orange colour as well. Straight off the bat, the price for this, if I remember rightly, comes in about $300. The other version comes in at $200. I'm trying to think of the extra differences between the two. This one has a thumb stud, and I think the other one has a thumb hole or I guess a thumb kind of nick to open it. Although it's not really just like a thumb nick, it definitely is a thumb hole there. But there are, as I mentioned, there are two versions. The other version is the 15535, whereas this is the 15536. Some measurements wise. So open like this from the butt of the scales here all the way through to the tip comes in at 206 millimeters. 100 millimeters definitely wouldn't be particularly long, would it now? Yeah, it comes in at 206 millimeters. When it's closed, there's no extending tang on this or anything like that. Everything fits perfectly within the scales. It comes in at 118 millimeters. The blade length on here, now I'm taking the blade length right against the, well, I suppose from the scales here. Hopefully you'll be able to see if I just move this around. So as far as a ricasso is concerned, the choil here at the front, or the sharpening choil as it comes into the ricasso, is pretty much bang up against the side of the scales. So the length of the cutting edge, or the length of the whole blade is pretty much the same, and it comes in at 89 millimeters. Now you're probably wondering, is this something that you can carry legally in public here in the UK? Because it's over 3 inches, it's not something that you can carry here in public, and it also has the axis lock on here, which you know, invented by Benchmade, is frickin' bomber. It really is. So this is classed as a locking knife, which means that it's not live floor friendly, and yes, this can't be carried in public. However, it doesn't mean that it's not an illegal knife. As I have it here, I can take it out, I can go out and do some bushcrafting, I can go out, as this is designed to be an outdoors huntsman style outdoor knife, perfectly legal to own and purchase. Just a next little point there. Yes, so where was I? So it comes in at 89 millimeters. The thickness of the stock, it's actually really reasonably nice thickness as well. It comes in at 2.3 millimeters. Again, I think for this style of knife, it's just right. It could have been slightly thicker, but I'm just splitting hairs there. Obviously, if it had been thicker, it would have added to the weight, and I think for the weight of this, it's not a particularly heavy knife, and it's just about right, actually. Last measurement as far as your thickness is concerned. Now, I'm not talking about with the removable and swappable clip on here. I'm just talking about the thickness of the scales. So I suppose from both sides, if you're wondering how deep this or how thick this would be when it's in your pocket, comes in at 12.5 millimeters. Have to say, I really like the colour scheme on here. I know it's such a daft thing to say because, well, at the end of the day, it's just a knife and it is a tool, but there needs to be, I think with certain knives, there needs to be an aesthetic that you look at and that you like. The green and this kind of, it's more like a burnt orange. yeah, I just love the aesthetic of this knife. I think it looks really nice. It's just the little accents. They could have gone completely green across the spacer at the back and with the thumb with the thumb nick on the front. Sorry, the thumb bar on the front. But having that kind of duality between the two also means that yes, if you drop it on the floor, it's just an extra accent colour. Oh, let's get back in focus here. It's just an extra accent colour for you to be able to look out for. As I've already mentioned, this is designed to be an outdoors knife through and through. And one of those comes down to the choice of the steel on here. So I already mentioned, so this is the S45VN, even says it here on the back. So for you, I was going to say meteorologists, I meant meteorologists out there, I always do this, I always want to say SV, but it's not, it's S45V. I do it the same with I was going to say the V again, I do the same with S30V steels. So the S45VN steel, from what I understand and from my knowledge of steels, has similar properties to your S90s, whereas the N on the end is the nitrogen that is infused with this as part of the forging process. What the N or the nitrogen does is allows for additional properties as far as corrosion is concerned. Because this is a knife that's designed to be outdoors, it's designed to get wet, it's designed to be skinning animals, it needs to be regularly cleaned. If you're doing that sort of stuff, it's actually very easy to take down. You just have these pins and then you can take this down. It was designed specifically in that way so that if you needed to just take this home or even just spray a washer in there to clean out, you can do. But getting back to the steel, sorry, the additional nitrogen content that's added to this really bumps up those corrosion properties whilst also maintaining some of the other properties that you'd expect from this. It takes a very good edge. In fact, even just rubbing my finger on there, I have just like sliced a little bit of my skin. The edge on this is, it's scalpel sharp. It really is sharp. Whoever is putting the edge, I mean, I say whoever, they're probably sharpening 100 or so or more knives a day. But yes, this is very, very sharp. If you're doing some work with this, all you need to do, rather than having to resharpen it, I mean, you don't need to resharpen it. Maybe just a strop every so once in a while, but yeah, it is very sharp. So giving you some extra information as far as the blade is concerned, we have a really nice flat grind on there. It has a satin finish to it. I'm a big fan of satin finish. It's just again an aesthetic that I like. On this side, let's call this the left-hand side, it has the Benchmade butterfly on there, and on the right-hand side here you can see it says the S45VN steel. It is a high saber grind. The grind doesn't go all the way up to the spine from the belly. It stops maybe say a sixth of let's say 4/5 of the way up, and then we have a clip point geometry on here with a swedge through that clip point. The belly curls around quite a bit. As far as bellies are concerned, it has quite a pronounced belly, but again, considering this is for outdoor use, if you wanted to use this to field dress something, then you can certainly do that with this knife. And then across the back you have a little bit of jimping. Now I'll say the jimping's great on this mainly because it does extend through the back onto the shoulder of the scales here, which just gives you that extra little bit. So if you want to push your finger forward so that you can do some fine work, you can do. If you want to hold it back here, so your finger fits perfectly into the finger choil on the scales, but then you can also use some of this jimping here on the back just to give your hand a good position if you're doing something, especially with skinning, the amount you have to get your hand in there to be able to remove the skin from the side of the carcass. Then it will allow you to keep your thumb still in control of the knife, but a little bit further away from the edge. As previously mentioned, so rather than having a ricasso that comes all the way down, the sharpening choil on here works as it kind of pushes into the ricasso. And then you have these thumb studs on the top. So I'm just going to close this for a second. Thumb studs, these are, I mean, these. I need to work on my Spidey flick. I'm not the best at it. There you go. I mean, I did it, but that's a bit of a rarity for me. The pivot on here is butter smooth. If you're trying for a thumb flick instead, you know, it just springs out. It's not assisted. It is, and it also doesn't have any detents. The locking action on this is Benchmade's own axis lock, so you have to be able to either pull on one of these, and it will allow it to open. There is a detent on the back which this bar then springs into to make sure that it's nice and well, it's closed and it's locked in place. As far as movement, as far as rattle, there is no rattle or movement whatsoever. I'm not, well, okay. I was going to say it's not as strong as a fixed blade, obviously, because it's not a fixed blade, but don't get me wrong, it is in there. It is locked into position. It will drop close. One of the features that I do like about the axis lock is, I know you can do it with one hand or one finger or just on one side, but really you should just kind of pinch both sides and pull it back. You can release the pivot pin ever so slightly, which will mean that it will help to drop shut. Personally, I like it just to hang there a little bit, mainly because of just safety really. But with the axis lock, having to hold it like this, I mean, I suppose you could do it with your fingers there, but for me personally, I tend to grip it with my fingers like this, pull that back, give it a bit of a shake, and then that will close down. I like these style axis locks and button locks mainly because it does make you want to move your fingers away from the blade as it closes down, which, you know, as far as safety is concerned, we all need to be safe around knives, and especially when they're closing, with how sharp this is. It really is that sharp. Now moving back, we've gone through most of the things at the front here, so I did touch on some of the on the construction of this. So you've got your pivot pin, you've also got some spacers. Now I say spacers, these are pins into the actual spacer itself. So rather than having barrel spacers, which would usually be here, here and here, you have this one large spacer through the back. I probably should have checked what this is. It feels like aluminium, but don't get me on that. But it does. I'll triple check the website. It feels like aluminium. It's nice and light and strong, which you'd certainly expect. But so your 3 pins here, or your 3 screws here, they are for the spacer on there, and then this additional pin here. This goes through to help with the axis lock. So the axis lock, the material on the axis lock comes across the top here. You have an additional pin there, which is the pin that stops this from over rotating. So that's just like an extra point there. And then on the inside, if you can see, so the axis lock material comes back, or the steel comes back to here, which is where it's then grounded with this pin. Makes it super secure, and it's as strong as you would expect from an axis lock like this. Having tested out a few of these, I mean, like I say, Benchmade invented the axis lock, so it's no surprise that theirs is the best, and well, that's it. It is the best one out there. G10 scales on this. The G10 is really nice. It's nice and smooth, but also gives you a decent grip on here. In fact, if you can hear my thumb kind of rubbing as it goes down there, it's very good for that, but also keeps it nice and light. Identical on both sides, but hopefully what you'll see here is, oh, sorry, I'm just got out of focus there, sorry about that, is that you'll see that there is some contouring on here. So whether you're using the knife and you have your finger in the finger choil. By the way, so for me, I have a medium to large size hand. I can get a full grasp on this. It fits within the front and the rear of the scales. But should you need to have a pinch on the end here, so again you can can do some fine work or whatever it is that you're doing with this. This extra contouring here does make it just a little bit easier to be able to grip there, because your thumb fits into this berm that sweeps around your pivot pin here, and again just gives you an extra little bit of grip for some precision work. And then last but not least, which I guess I kind of touched on previously, there is a pocket clip. It's deep carry, but I will say that there's probably an extra maybe 2 or 3 millimeters from the end of the clip to the knife. I guess for a knife like this, if it's clipped in your pocket, it does make it a little bit easier to get out. But if you're concerned or you're worried, then yes, there is just a little bit of show at the end here, which again, I suppose it depends on how you're using the knife. But the pocket clip can be removed, or it can be changed to the other side depending on whether you're a lefty or a righty. The huge advantage of the axis lock as well, which I certainly didn't mention, is that it is completely ambidextrous. Whether you're a left, I'm going to try this with my left hand now and probably just butcher it. Oh, I could do it, but whether you're a lefty or a righty, you can actuate the lock on here. And then you have a small lanyard hole here at the end, which is built into the spacer. So what I highly recommend is, which probably most people would do, is have something that is a completely different colour on here. Again, if you're using this outdoors, you drop it on the floor, you know, you just want to be able to find an expensive knife like this. Now, it is incredibly easy for me to fall in love with this knife. There's just a lot coming together that does make this a very nice knife, from the godlike steel that's on here with the extra nitrogen input into that, making sure that for an outdoors knife like this, that's meant to take a little bit more than your regular EDC knife, it's going to make sure that this knife stays in as good a condition as possible, and even down to the ergonomics on the scales themselves. The axis lock, let's face it, Benchmade invented the axis lock, so they're going to be the best at it. I think the Taggedout is a very, very nice knife. Now, I'd like to say thank you to Benchmade for sending this my way. I met Alex from Benchmade this year at IWA. What can I say? I mean, I use this term a lot, but that kind of good old-fashioned American hospitality, very good company to work with, making excellent knives. So yes, thank you for sending this my way. I will leave Benchmade's links below. I'll leave some of my social media links below so that you can see me here on Moorlander EDC and my sister channel, Moorlander Tactical. But for now, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC. That's not gonna work. That's gonna work. I'm using the rain hood. Here's my little piece of... No, that's a knife. Here's my little piece of leather. Here's my other piece of leather. Well, it's the same piece of leather actually. I suppose it's just coming in from different sides. It worked well last week. I have a tarp at home. I don't know why I don't just bring my tarp out with me, because, well, I do know why, because I'm an idiot. That's why. As people would expect, a man talking to a camera in the middle of the woods. You gotta love that action. That is sexy as hell. Hope you're all having a good day. Now I say a good day because I'm not too sure when this is going out. It might be a Tuesday, it might be a Wednesday, it could be a Thursday. I just don't know. Not a bug out. I keep wanting to say bug out. It's not the bug out, it's the Taggedout. I'm okay with my thumb flick. I've got my thumb flick nailed. It's the Spidey flick. I just don't think I've got the fingers for it. That's what she said. See, I can't seem to... Nah. I need to work on that one. No, where was I?